Princess Alara Varian of the Zerati Empire stood stiffly in her flowing ceremonial robes, her eyes downcast. The council had made their decision. She was to wed a human. Humans were rare in this sector, considered fragile, unpredictable, and beneath most royal houses. The council's intent was strategic. Solara's marriage was a political move to cement relations with Earth. Solara's heart sank. She had trained her entire life to command respect, navigate politics, and maintain the Zerati legacy. And now, she was to marry a species she feared and distrusted. The human arrived quietly. His name was Captain Ethan Kane, known across the system for bravery and ingenuity. He was not the hulking, invincible type the Zerati expected. He was lean, confident, and calm. Yet there was something in his posture, the way he carried himself, that made Solara uneasy. He bowed politely, words measured. "Princess Alara, I will do my best on our union." Solara bristled at the simplicity. "You will honor me?" she asked, disbelief and suspicion in her tone. Humans did not understand royal protocol. "I will treat you with respect," Ethan replied simply, his gaze steady. "As no one else has." Solara stiffened. "No one has?" Her mind raced through the years of cold tutors, dismissive nobles, and distant family. She doubted any human could truly understand a Zerati princess. The first days of their arrangement were tense. Solara withdrew into her quarters, avoiding conversation. Ethan respected her space, never forcing interactions, yet quietly attended to duties with meticulous care. It was unusual. Alien servants and courtiers often attempted to manipulate her, speaking over her, treating her as fragile. Yet Ethan, human, did nothing of the sort. He listened, he observed, he respected. Solara noticed small details. How he adjusted the curtains to let her favorite sunlight fall across the floor. How he quietly studied ceremonial protocols to avoid embarrassment. How he offered no unnecessary words, yet each one was precise, thoughtful, and sincere. For the first time in her life, Solara felt a strange sensation. She wasn't feared, ignored, or manipulated. She was seen. As the first week passed, tension gave way to curiosity. Solara began to watch him, not with suspicion, but with interest. HFY was quietly at work here, not through war or combat, but through human respect, thoughtfulness, and patience. The second week of their arranged union began with Solara carefully observing Ethan. She noticed how he handled even the smallest duties with thoughtfulness. When the council required her to host alien dignitaries, she saw Ethan quietly reviewing customs manuals the night before. Not once did he overstep, but he anticipated every possible breach of protocol and ensured she would not appear embarrassed. Solara found herself reluctant to admit it, but she was impressed. Humans were supposed to be unpredictable, brash, or clumsy. Ethan was none of these things. One evening, Solara had a minor accident in the training hall. A misstep caused her ceremonial staff to fall and nick her arm. Normally, attendants would panic, fuss, or worse, lecture her on propriety. Ethan appeared instantly, but calmly. He pulled a clean cloth from his sleeve, applied antiseptic, and bandaged the cut without fuss. "Thank you," she muttered, uncomfortable with the intimacy. "You're welcome," he said quietly, meeting her gaze without hesitation. "I know this is unusual for you, but I respect you, Princess Alara. That doesn't mean I'll ignore when you're hurt." Her breath caught. No one had ever treated her like that. Not tutors, not nobles, not family. She realized her fear wasn't just about him. It was about being seen as powerless, as fragile. Ethan didn't see her that way. Later, during dinner with the household staff, an awkward protocol error nearly caused a diplomatic faux pas. Ethan, noticing the tension, quietly whispered to Solara, "Did anyone tell you humans sometimes eat with forks upside down?" Solara blinked, surprised. Then, despite herself, she laughed. It was a soft, genuine sound. She realized she hadn't laughed like that in months, years, perhaps. Humor, observation, patience. Every small gesture reminded her this human wasn't here to dominate her or impress the court. He was here to treat her with dignity. Over the next few days, Solara tested him in small ways, leaving notes in her quarters with cryptic instructions. Ethan deciphered them without complaint. arranging minor protocol traps during meetings with ambassadors. Ethan navigated them flawlessly, observing her subtle expressions of discomfort and adapting his behavior accordingly. Each time, Solara felt her fear dissolve a little more. The human wasn't perfect. He made minor errors, but his intentions were always honorable. She began to realize a truth she hadn't allowed herself to admit. She was beginning to trust him. One evening, Solara and Ethan walked along the palace gardens. The twin moons reflected in the still water. "You treat me differently than anyone else has," Solara said softly, almost whispering. "No one has ever treated me like I matter." Ethan stopped and looked at her, calm and sincere. "Because you do matter. And I believe that everyone deserves to be treated with respect, even when they are forced into situations they fear." Solara's chest tightened. Her fear had been real, but it was no longer the dominant feeling. Curiosity, admiration, and even a flicker of warmth replaced it. She thought to herself, perhaps this human is not as terrifying as I imagined. Perhaps he is exactly what I need. HFY was alive in this quiet palace garden, not through combat, but through human empathy, respect, and intelligence, slowly breaking the barriers of fear and distrust that had defined Solara's life. Weeks had passed since Solara Varen's initial fear of Ethan Kane. What had begun as suspicion and dread was slowly transforming. She had begun to notice the small, extraordinary ways he respected her, in ways no alien had ever done. The court remained tense, the political stakes high. Yet Solara found herself watching Ethan more than she watched the council or diplomats. His calm confidence in the face of alien expectations, his patience with every minor inconvenience, and his subtle humor, it unsettled her fear and replaced it with curiosity. Solara decided to test him, subtly, carefully. She crafted situations that could reveal his true nature. During a ceremonial banquet, she deliberately mispronounced diplomatic titles. Most humans would panic. Ethan, however, paused, corrected himself gracefully, and even made the awkward moment amusing without embarrassment. She arranged minor protocol traps, shifting the timing of announcements, creating conflicting instructions. Ethan navigated each one with clever improvisation, quietly impressing the attending dignitaries. When Solara pretended to refuse common courtesies, Ethan did not force her compliance. Instead, he adapted, showing understanding of her comfort and autonomy. Each success chipped away at her fear. She realized something remarkable. This human respected her without attempting to dominate, manipulate, or impress through power. One evening, a minor kitchen mishap caused a tray of delicacies to crash loudly. Ethan quickly moved to steady it, but a dessert slid onto the floor. "Oh no!" Solara exclaimed, expecting him to scold or panic. Instead, Ethan looked at the mess and said with a grin, "Well, at least it wasn't your shoes this time." Solara blinked. Then, despite herself, she laughed. A full, warm laugh, genuine, unrestrained. The sound surprised her. She realized she hadn't laughed like this in years. Humor, respect, and care, the combination was slowly erasing fear and replacing it with warmth. Solara found herself wandering the palace gardens one night, thinking of Ethan. The moonlight reflected softly off the crystalline fountains. She was not alone for long. Ethan approached quietly, as always mindful of her space. "You've been avoiding me," he said softly, not accusing, only observing. Solara hesitated, then admitted, I didn't know what to think. Humans, they are unpredictable. I feared you." Ethan nodded. "I understand. Fear is natural. And yet, I hope that through respect, patience, and care, I might show you a different truth." Solara's chest tightened. Different truth. She realized that he had done exactly that. Her fear was no longer dominant. Instead, trust, admiration, and something warmer were beginning to take root. Solara walked closer to Ethan, lowering her gaze. "You treat me like no one ever has. Even my family, my tutors, none of them ever saw me. They saw the princess. You see me, and it's frightening and comforting at the same time." Ethan took her hand gently, careful not to overstep. "I do see you, Solara, because you matter. Not because of your title, but because of who you are." Her breath caught. She had been trained to hide vulnerability, to mask emotions with poise and authority. Yet with him, she felt a strange relief. She felt safe. She felt understood. HFY was manifesting here, not through combat, but through human respect, care, patience, and understanding. Ethan was teaching her that strength was not only measured in power, but in empathy and trust. By the end of Part 3, Solara had realized fear had been replaced with trust. Distrust had evolved into admiration. Isolation had shifted toward curiosity and emotional connection. She looked at Ethan with quiet awe, thinking, perhaps this human is not what I expected. Perhaps he is exactly what I need. The political tension of the marriage still existed, but the personal bond was beginning to outshine the fear that had defined her life. The story was no longer about duty alone. It was about two beings learning, respecting, and valuing each other across species boundaries. The Zerati court was tense. Political pressure weighed heavily on Princess Solara Varen, and whispers of dissent rippled among the advisors. Yet inside, her thoughts were not on the court. They were on Ethan Kane, the human she had once feared. What had begun as unease had blossomed into trust, and trust was beginning to spark something more profound. A week before the official union ceremony, a sudden security breach alarmed the palace. Mercenaries from a rival system infiltrated the outer walls, seeking to exploit the Zerati's political uncertainty. Solara froze, instinctively reaching for defensive protocols. Panic rose. No one expected the human to act decisively in such a high-stakes situation. Ethan stepped beside her calmly. "Step back," he said firmly, eyes scanning the approaching threat. "Trust me." Despite her lingering fear, she did. His confidence was not arrogance. It was calm, deliberate, and prepared. Ethan quickly assessed the intruders. Unlike the alien gods who relied on brute force, he used strategy and ingenuity, redirecting energy barriers to trap the mercenaries, using environmental hazards in the hallways to delay their advance, coordinating the Zerati gods' movements to maximize efficiency. By the time the palace security fully mobilized, the intruders were immobilized, captured without a single fatality. Solara watched, astonished. The human she had feared had saved her, the palace, and even the reputation of her court. Later, as the palace recovered from the breach, Solara found Ethan in the quiet garden. You saved everyone," she whispered, voice tinged with awe. I was afraid of you. I thought you might be reckless, unpredictable, incapable of understanding me." Ethan shook his head gently. "I don't need to be like you to protect you. I just observe, adapt, and act. Humans survive by thinking, by caring, and by trusting those who matter." Solara felt her chest tighten. Fear, suspicion, and the weight of duty melted away. "You treat me differently. No one has ever done that. No one has ever seen me." Ethan took her hand, careful, sincere. "Because you are worth seeing, Solara, and I will always treat you with respect. Always." Her lips curved into the first full smile she had allowed herself in years. It was a mixture of relief, trust, and something warmer, admiration, curiosity, even the faintest stirrings of affection. The Zerati court soon noticed a subtle change. The princess, once tense and distant, moved with a calm assurance beside her human partner. Diplomats, nobles, and guards whispered among themselves. This human had done something no one expected. He had earned respect without domination, without title, and without fear. Ethan's patience, intelligence, and humor had not only won the princess's trust, but had reshaped perceptions of all humans in the Zerati court. HFY was evident in every small gesture, protecting without condescension, acting decisively without arrogance, humor and calm under pressure, respecting the princess as a person, not a political asset. The day of the official ceremony arrived. Solara walked alongside Ethan, not as a fearful bride, but as a confident partner who knew him, trusted him, and respected him. During the vows, Solara's voice was steady. "I feared you at first," she admitted, soft yet firm. "I feared what I did not understand, what I thought I could not trust. But you have shown me respect, patience, and care. You have treated me as no one ever did. And for that, I trust you. I honor you. I am yours." Ethan's reply was quiet, full of sincerity. I vowed to see you, to respect you, to protect you, and I will continue to do so every day. A ripple of approval passed through the court, not because humans were expected to succeed, but because a human had succeeded where alien expectations had failed, through heart, patience, and respect. After the ceremony, Solara walked beside Ethan in the palace gardens, a serene smile on her face. "I thought I would fear you forever," she said softly. "I was wrong. Humans are different than I imagined, and you are extraordinary." Ethan smiled gently, taking her hand. "I just treated you the way everyone should be treated. And yet, I'm glad it made a difference." The galaxy had witnessed the unexpected, a human transforming fear into trust, suspicion into admiration, and politics into partnership. HFY was alive in every action Ethan had taken, through courage, ingenuity, respect, and heart. Solara glanced at him, warmth shining in her eyes. "I feared you until you proved that respect, care, and honesty are stronger than fear. And now—" She squeezed his hand. "I am glad it was you I feared." The human had done more than survive political expectation. He had earned the love, trust, and admiration of a princess, and reshaped perception of humans forever.